pledge the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, can we have the secretary perform a roll call attendance, please?
Here.
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 Here. Here. Here. Okay. All the board members should have received the minutes from the September 3rd meeting.
Motion to accept.
Second. Okay, motion's made and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Okay. All right, our first item on the agenda this evening is discussion regarding the Citco amended site plan. Might have to tighten up that leg on its side.
There we go.
Okay.
Good evening. My name is Mark from S&K Petroleum Wholesalers. We've been in front of the board. I'd like to bring up our traffic consultant because I believe most of the stuff that we're talking about is going to be related to traffic. So this is Lee Klein.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lee, middle initial D as in Daniel, Klein, K-L-E-I-N. I'm a professional engineer in the state of New York, as well as a nationally certified professional traffic operations engineer. I was here back in June for the Citco site plan, and we received some comments dated October 2nd, 2025 from H&H, and I want to address those comments. With regard to the site-generated traffic, there have been studies about convenience uses like coffee shops and gas stations that show that the amount of traffic that actually comes into these sites is based on the amount of traffic that passes it. There's a pass-by percentage, and the amount of traffic is based on the roadway itself. So that's why you see a lot of gas stations at intersections where they want to have access from all four approaches. Coffee shops are similar. And so the comment about adding the extra 2 fueling positions will increase the amount of traffic using the site, I don't think it's as large as one would think, because there's already an existing gas station here. It's got 4 fueling positions and a convenience store. We're reconfiguring the fueling positions to allow for 6 fueling positions so that people that do come in, and there was some mention of unmet demand, so cars that do come in and realize that, oh, I'll call it the 4 parallel parking spaces at the 2 pumps for 4 fueling positions are full, either people get frustrated or they exit and they leave and they're done. So in the new configuration that we're proposing, it's going to be 6 positions. They're going to be on the angle so that people coming in from both Old Hopewell as well as from Route 1 and 9 northbound will be able to get in, pick a spot, and fuel. If there's more than 6 people there, then we've actually got at least 5 fueling position backup spots. I'll call it the queuing spot before you get into that. So as you look at the site plan, we go back to Exhibit 5 in the set of exhibits that I prepared in my office. These exhibits are dated May 16, 2025. And in the exhibit, we're seeing the angle positions of the 6 vehicles for fueling. And in this case, we're seeing the fuel truck trying to come in, drop the fuel at the underground storage tanks, and then maneuvering their way out. So what I'm saying is, with this configuration, there's space between the curb that's the island that separates the entrance and the exit driving around Route 9 northbound. And that space back there is enough to be able to have people queue up behind the cars that are actually actually in the fueling position. So in my opinion, I think we could at least get 4 or 5 cars that are queued up, not in a haphazard way that it is done now, where people are parallel parked, parallel to Route 1 and Route 9. And when a car comes in, and you'll see, and I'll get into the crash records in a few minutes, but some of the crashes were people trying to maneuver into those fueling positions, whether they're pulling forward and backing into a spot, trying to parallel park in between 2 cars, if there's enough space, and so forth. So in that configuration it is today, it doesn't lend itself for additional cars to be able to fuel. In other words, if you're going to get behind the northernmost fueling position, you're really in the southernmost fueling position. There's not enough spots for people to be able to get behind. So if one car, in this configuration, if the first car is quicker, then the car that comes in, there'll either be an empty spot, and they'll pull into that spot. So it gives more choices for the drivers when they come in, and the configuration is such that they'll be able to see what's going on, and they'll be able to see if there's an empty one, and people that are finishing up their fueling to be able to get behind those cars. The on-site queuing, there were some questions about that, and I think I addressed that there, that I think at least we'll get 5 cars that'll queue behind 5 of the fueling positions if you take away that last one, the southernmost one, because it's so close to the driveway. So we'll have enough queuing for 5 cars plus the 6 that are getting fuel. So we looked at the crashes. We actually requested crashes. We only got 3 records, and they were a little bit different. One of them was the same as one of the 11 that we got from H&H, and then the other 2 were different. So I went through those crashes, and I separated them out, and I think I heard earlier somebody mentioned. There were, I counted, 6 crashes on site involving vehicles either backing out of a parking spot at the convenience store or making a maneuver to get in or out of a fueling position. So I would say that let's address those first. So those 6 were, some of the people were parallel parked at the fueling position, and somebody was trying to get out of a parking space in front of the convenience store, and when they backed up, they T-boned the car that was maneuvering. So if that was a certain situation, that would go away with this angled configuration of the fueling. The other one was, and I said before, that now when they're parallel parked, 4 cars, when another car comes up and they see the one in the front is empty, then they're going to try to get around that car, and they're trying to get around that car while somebody's trying to get out of a parking spot, and that was a couple of crashes that way as well. So I think this configuration will probably reduce some of the internal crashes that occurred in the site.
So let's say, based off what you just said, let's say that those pumps are all packed, right?
Correct, like they are in the picture, yes.
And you have queuing starting now behind them,
Yep,
right?
yep.
So now the cars would go around the other side because now they want to exit back out because they're not going to wait. It poses the same problem. They're sneaking around a car and potentially getting rear-ended by a car backing out of the parking spot.
No. If they're so in other words, let's take the worst position, number 6. If they're in number 6 and they realize that they don't want to get fuel, don't want to wait longer, then they have to go around. But that's similar to the way it is today. What I'm saying is,
It's also similar to some of these accidents, cars kind of trying to get through there, what you just said, and a car backing out of that spot right in front of the station, which I just looked at one of these, and they would rear end right into a car trying to sneak out because they don't want to wait online. It's the same thing, it's just a different configuration.
right, but because of this angle and because of the way the parking is, they're not going to be backing up into a car that's that's not parallel to Route 9, waiting for a
It's
fuel
not the
position.
backing up of the car leaving the gas station, leaving the convenience store, it's the maneuvering of the vehicle that's trying to get out of there.
Correct. So in this configuration, when a car is, they're all going to be facing northeast in this configuration. Right now, you see some vehicles facing north, some vehicles facing south, depending on where their intake, where their fuel tank is, on which side of the car. So in this situation, they'll all be facing the northeast direction. When they're done, they'll pull forward, go around, and come out the main exit. If they want to go back out to Hopewell, and we'll get into that in a minute, they can make a U-turn in here, like they do today, and go back out onto Old Hopewell Road.
So let's say they can't go back into Old Hopewell, right, based off of some of this information, right? So their only option is to go back onto the northbound side. So they would have to go end around that back part, right? You see what I'm saying?
No, if a car that's here would go around and follow this path and go out.
So I mean, it's queuing, it's all blocked up, right? Right where that, so that's all blocked up.
Right.
You have a car coming off of the highway.
Now you're talking about the 12th car.
Yeah. So show me which way that car would go.
The 12th car?
Yeah, let's say they don't want to wait.
The 12th car would have to wait. I don't know that I've ever seen 12 cars
They don't
on
have to
site.
wait, and then that could pose a bigger problem than what we're actually saying is that this is the problem. They want to leave. They don't want to wait. They can't go to the left because it's blocked up. So where do they go?
They go forward like they did today, and they go around and they...
Exactly.
Right.
So if you look at your accident, or if you have the documentation, you look at this accident on May of 2024, and if you look at the sketch from the trooper that did this accident,
Right.
that's a very similar situation. That car was not queued up on that line. That car was actually making a maneuver to go around that gas pump. And that car backed out of that convenience store spot and rear-ended that car. So it's the same exact problem, whether they're queued up parallel to Route 9 or they're ending around to try to get out of that location because they don't want to wait online. It's the same problem.
But we're increasing the capacity of the fueling positions by 50%.
But and as it's called out here, an increase to your units on a fifth and a sixth will also increase the demand, which will in turn, based on what they're saying, is you're going to have more availability. You're also going to have more demand, leaving a very similar problem of queuing.
I don't agree.
Wait a second, but I just want to know, is that what this said or no? Am I misunderstanding that?
That is what that says.
So I understand you disagree with that. I'm just stating the facts based off what I'm reading. I'm not like
No,
you're saying.
right, so let me try to address that. So there's 6 fueling positions in this proposed configuration. Right now, there's 4. In this configuration, we can queue up 5 vehicles behind, at least 5 vehicles, maybe even a 6th behind them. So we have the ability for 6 to be fueled and 6 to wait. In the configuration now, we don't have the ability for 4 to get fueled and 4 to even wait.
I would interject. Our traffic engineer is pointing out that, in an ideal situation where everyone is making the selfless decision, you might be able to queue 1 car behind each of those. The scenario that your traffic engineer is suggesting to you is the idea that you enter the site from Route 9, there are 6 cars at all 6 of those fueling positions, and you don't know which one is going to leave next. So which car do you queue behind, or do you queue behind the 6th knowing that whichever car moves next, you can pull into the next available?
Exactly what would end up happening.
And that is exactly what would end up
As
happening.
far back as you could, so you could reach all of them, and you would
As far
block
back as you would
everybody.
need to access any fueling position.
So that's my question, is that even though there's the ability to queue 6 cars, would 1 car queued block traffic from flowing around?
If a car were to wait here to try to jockey for one of the 4, yes. But what I'm...
So in actuality, you don't really have 6 queued. You can have only 1 queued, and then it creates a problem of not being able to leave through that back end.
Well, specifically in that scenario, you have less queuing than you have today.
That's the way I see it. And coupled with not being able to exit off of Old Hopewell now.
That's our recommendation. That has not been
Well, it just
proposed by
poses
the
an even
applicant.
bigger problem.
Yes.
It's like even going the opposite way completely.
Well, I think that's the
Just
other...
allowing anybody to go back on the old Hopewell here is kind of diverting around your whole path there.
I think I was under the impression in the past, I'm trying to think about this, that if there was queuing going on, that there was still space to go through, to exit. And now I'm realizing that there's not. So you can't really present the 6-car queuing.
If you were to enter off of Old Hopewell and there is no fueling truck in position and there is queuing and you decide, you know what, I'm just going to leave, you'd be able to exit onto Route 9.
But that's off of Old Hopewell.
Right,
now.
but-
That's off of Old Hopewell. If you
So
enter,
90%
yeah,
of the
if you
traffic-
enter off of Route 9
Yeah.
and there's queuing, you're in that queue until it moves.
But I think it's still not addressing the other issue, is the internal circulation,
Yeah.
which I think they were starting to bring up about if somebody was to go through, to the pumps, and then they wanted to, turn the other, or, make a sharp turn to go back out onto Old Hopewell, is there enough room there to do that? To have cars pass by safely, versus obviously the section closest to the road, if you have all the queuing there, do we have enough width, in front of those, between the parking spots and where possibly other people might be, coming off of the pumps there, will there be enough room? I think that's the issue. So is the absolute need to have an exit back out onto Route 9, or, exit out onto Old Hopewell absolutely necessary?
I think it would simplify internal
Could it be
circulation
just
tremendously.
redefined as a right turn only going into the site, and then blocking that, and then everybody's going to have to go north on 9 to resolve it? I know the county has concerns with the island, because they want the island to go back one way or the other. I know that's something that they're requesting.
To be fair, I think that removing that access back out into Old Hopewell would be an impact negatively, I believe, on the visitors to that location. Now, maybe that works in the opposite direction. I don't know. I'm just saying that I just want to be fair looking at how it would impact the sales of that location.
But I'm just saying,
because people will make a decision that they have to go northbound now instead of being able to go across Route 9 to Old Hopewell, to 9D, or being able to turn left to go southbound.
yeah.
How far do you think the next light up is the one in front of Alpine Commons, which has, BJ's has a U-turn.
No, you can make a U-turn before.
You can
Make a U-turn
Oh, you
there,
can?
correct.
Right?
Yeah, at BJ's would be the next one.
Yeah.
But I'm just going by what I'm looking at on the actual, what they've submitted to us. They have all the flow, everything they on the site, everything is directing it all out to the one exit anyway. Yeah, and to make all this motion up in this area,
It would totally get
beyond
that flow.
the pumps, and trying to make those,
It's a sharp turn at that
the sharp right, how is that going to flow, with oncoming traffic? Or you're going to just create an issue where we might have more accidents on the site versus what's,
It's a double-edged sword.
Right.
You do it one way, and you're creating a more of an accident situation by allowing that egress back out to Old Hopewell. You close it off, you do it the other way, and you have a bigger problem with the queuing.
So let me finish going through the crashes that we got from them. So again, 11 crashes from the H&H report, 3 from what we got. Actually, 1 was redundant, so we ended up with 13 crashes. 6 of them involved vehicles within the site, little fender benders, people backing up and hitting people that were trying to come out, people that were trying to maneuver within the fueling positions to be able to get a spot because the car in the south of them was in the way, things like that. Then we had 2 crashes involving rear ends on Hopewell Road, and one on Old Hopewell Road and 1 on southbound 9. The Route 9 one was in the left turn lane. 2 cars were there. They got rear-ended. The second car rear-ended the first car, trying to make a left turn from southbound Route 9. And then the other one was on Hopewell in front of the site, again, trying to go across, and there was a rear end there. So I don't think those are related to the gas station at all. Then there were 2 that involved single vehicles that lost control. They didn't involve, they just happened to be, the address for the crash was here. One vehicle tried to make a wide turn. I believe the police officer said they weren't driving properly and they lost control, turning on from Old Hopewell to go north, and they ended up, I think, in the ditch. And then the other one was coming down on Old Hopewell, and they ended up wiping out and hitting the island and coming onto the site. And again, not related to the gas station at all. So there's at least 4 there that are not part of the gas station operation. Then we had the 3 crashes that I would say would involve the entrance driveway. One of them was a motorcyclist who admitted he was driving at a high rate of speed, 70 miles an hour. He tried to pass on the right, ended up, I guess, in the shoulder, hit the car, went flying and landed in a ditch, and he was actually able to tell his story to the police officer
Was
that
that
day.
car queued up on?
It was slowing down to make the turn. He went around the other cars and tried to pass on the right at a high rate of speed. Again, that was sort of, it was related to the driveway only because I guess if the car wasn't there making the right turn in, then that motorcyclist would have continued to speed and be on the shoulder. Then the other one, there was a side swipe, a hit and run. Again, coming in, somebody was trying to come in and they got side swiped by somebody, and I think it was a pickup truck, and the pickup truck kept going. And then the third one was a rear end, and this one was a car was trying to come in to the gas station, making a right turn in from northbound Route 9, and a car was making, I guess, the way I read it, it sounded like they were probably making the right on red, and maybe they were looking to their left, so when they made that right turn, and they came around to where the car was slowing down to get into the driveway, they rear-ended that car. But again, those are three in 3.5 years involving entering into the site. And again, 6 on the site over a 3.5-year period that involve vehicles with fender benders inside. So I would say I didn't study any other gas stations in Wappingers to see if there are any other areas where there's other gas stations on corners that have crashes, but to me, in 3.5 years, to see a half a dozen crashes in the site that were reported and 3 at the entrance driveway, none of them involved the tanker truck, none of them involved vehicles exiting. It was all either internal, 6 of them, and 3 of them for vehicles trying to get into the site. That's really it for what I want to present, if there's any other questions.
What about the turning from like position 2 to get out?
From that position? Yeah, even 1 or 2, yeah, they have to make a lift turn, but they can get out.
But they got to make a 3-point turn though to get
Not a 3-point turn, they have to pull up, crank the wheel, make a turn. I don't think I ran a template for that one.
That would be a 3-point turn.
Yeah. It's pretty much.
Yeah, if you're going to take a full-size pickup and make that turn from position 1 and 2 without backing up, it's not going to fly, basically.
Yeah, so
You can't have people back.
which is even closer, they swing around. That's why I think we moved that curve back in the northwest quadrant of the site. So the first position, which is the tightest, they pull up, turn their wheel, and then make the turn, and they can sweep to get out. And again, usually these turning templates are more conservative than an actual vehicle out in the field.
Yeah, anybody else have any other board members have questions? No. Concerns?
No other questions.
All right.
So just to wrap it up, I guess the issue or the concern about the driveway, people entering, they're right close to a signalized intersection. I think at any commercial establishment, whether it's a gas station, a coffee shop, a convenience store, supermarket, whatever it ends up being, car dealership, you're going to have vehicles that are going to be turning in, slowing down, whether they came from the side street to turn in or they came from the highway to turn in, and other vehicles are right behind them. You're going to have situations where vehicles would have to drive with caution. And I guess just looking at 3 crashes in 3.5 years, and one of them was a motorcyclist that was driving at a high rate of speed, doing something illegal, to me, I don't think it's a significant safety problem at the site, at the driveway itself.
Well, we also don't know anything after February of 25, so, I mean, we're missing.
Up to June. No, it was June 15th, I think was the last one. Yeah, we got from January, well, we asked for January of 2022 to present, which I think at the time was June.
I only have February.
I mean, normally.
That's the crash data that we ran. He's including the crash data that they ran.
Oh, so there may be more than, so with the one from June, what was that accident? Is that the one where the person was killed, the pedestrian? Was the pedestrian?
I didn't see any fatalities. I saw the one injury, I think was the gentleman
This
who.
year, wasn't it? The pedestrian was struck and killed at that intersection? Yeah, it was like a couple months ago.
That was
At the driveway?
I think that was a while ago, but that was more towards the other side. I believe it was the one that the person was all dressed in black. Is that the one we're talking about?
Yeah, but it was from this.
It was at night.
It was
Yeah,
down
but that might have been in front of the, that might have been on the other corner.
On the other
They were
side.
crossing, right, on the other side, yeah.
Gotcha.
So that wouldn't have come into play.
So were we looking at June, say it
I
again?
just wanted to just curious what the June traffic, the June incident was, because I don't have it here.
June 15th of 2025 was a Sunday. It happened at 10:51 in the morning. The second vehicle was stopped at the red traffic signal on Old Hopewell Road. Vehicle 1 was stopped behind him on Old Hopewell Road. Vehicle 2 operator stated that while his foot was on the brake, his engine started increasing RPMs and it propelled him, and he rear-ended the vehicle. Again, not related to the driver.
Malcolm, I just had a question. Did the crash data that they provided match what we found?
I think there was one overlap.
Yeah.
So the crash data that we ran missed 2 of the ones that you had identified,
Right.
but picked up a
9,
number
10,
of
10
others.
more, yeah, correct, yeah. You used the state software?
I believe so.
Yeah, I don't have access to that. I think that's what he said, yeah. But
So
we just did an
found
open
how many more
request.
crashes than they found?
We found 11 and you found 3.
Right, and one overlap. So 14 was really 13.
13.
So you just use a different system, is that what it is?
We did a FOIL request.
So you FOIL requirement.
We use the NICE.clear system, which is a state database that, yeah.
So if the FOIL goes, so they don't, so you,
I think the point is we got 11 from your consultant that we added to our analysis.
yeah, I mean, I'm looking at this from a professional perspective for you, doing crash analysis or traffic studies, having the most accurate information to present. So when I see that you present 3 and we present 5 and 11, it's not that questioning, I know you've got a lot of experience. I would just hope that you would come to us with the 11,
Again, we did the FOIL request, and this is what we got back. I'm glad you were able to do what you did to get it.
Is there, so I know I've asked this in several meetings, of an alternate plan if this was not to work, or wanting to see an alternate plan besides what I've offered some thoughts and possibilities that I know you guys said would not work, but I wasn't sure if you actually explored them and maybe put them out to see if something would work.
Yeah, we've explored that with our engineer, and we did some modifications and such like this, some tests, and none of them worked, It was all nice to do this and move this and stuff like this, but this is where we're at. This is where our engineers have come through and said, you know what, this is the best plan that we have, and this works, and this was backed up by Mr. Klein in his traffic study. So this is where we're at. We're not going to change this.
All right.
And what I would request, I apologize, but
I get it. I mean, again, just what's on paper, it's basically you're showing the flow of everything through the site is going to all go out through that north entrance. Correct?
No, the tanker truck still has to go out of Old Hopewell.
That's not,
No,
it's not originally what I thought we said. Tanker truck's going out through the north entrance.
We don't pick up 9 on the other way. Yes, correct. You're correct, Chairman.
Correct. Yeah, so the traffic movement off the pumps to go to the, to make the right turn to get back out to Old Hopewell is the awkward scenario. I think that's the one, I think that's the one item I think that's still yet to be answered.
But the vehicles in the convenience store, they're going to be able to pull out of that spot and go out.
Right.
So it's just a matter of you're concerned with the ability for any of these vehicles that are in the fueling position to make a 180.
Right, so now they're going to make that turn, they have to make that sharp turn to get out.
You're talking about actually on Old Hopewell?
To get out to Old Hopewell, yeah, to make that right turn, to get away from the pump to go to that exit.
Back here.
Right. I think we're still open on that particular item.
So this is, their plan here is including still an exit on Old Hopewell, right? Correct. So, which defeats the whole purpose of the flow, which you're trying to say, right?
Yeah.
Because you're going to have people like me, 100% of the time I'll tell you that if I'm gassing up there, I'm going that way to go out on Old Hopewell. Probably maybe 1 out of 10 times I'll hit Route 9 to go the other way. So
And I'm not convinced that this position 1 and 2 can get out of there without a 3-point turn with a bigger vehicle.
In either direction, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is, we can keep on discussing this, but they're presenting a plan that's their only option. No other option is working for them. And this is a plan that doesn't work for us or for the public. And so based off of the traffic study, that there's no other option to do here. And my personal experience, I don't believe that we can approve this, and I would make a motion to deny it and just move on, to be honest. I hate to do it because I go there, and, you know, I'd love to see something work, but I have asked for and presented. We have not seen another plan. If we even do this, we have to do it without an exit to Route 9 or to Old Hopewell, which is not possible for them. So we'd be sitting here meeting after meeting going in circles, and we've already done this twice now.
You just don't have enough room.
I mean, you're just trying to, it falls back to putting too much on. You're trying to put too much onto the property. There's not a lot of property to begin with. You don't have a lot of room.
We're adding one pump with 2 fueling positions, and everything else is being cleaned up as far as parking and the angles and circulation by moving the curb back on the northern end. I think we're cleaning this up so we can make that maneuver. We're restriping, putting in the loading space. We're reconfiguring the parking in front of the convenience store. Everything else is the same. The tanker truck still has to drop fuel above the
Right, tanker truck's going to be a tanker. He's going to go in there, and every time he pulls in, regardless, he's just going to create chaos. He's going to he'll block up whatever, people are going to try to maneuver around him all different ways. So I mean, that's still going to be the same. For what's there today versus what's going to be there if this was approved, that's going to be the same scenario regardless. We understand that.
And there's no problem.
Right, and you remember, the tanker truck is a small window of time. It's, once every, what is it? It's, once a day, once every 3 days, whatever the case may be, depending upon the volume of gasoline you're selling. Will dictate how many times the truck has to come there in a given week or, to make deliveries. But, again, when he's making that delivery, he's only there for a small period of time. If that was the only issue and we didn't address the other issues, or at least the one issue is that I keep bringing up is, that right turn away from the pump. How are we gonna, how else is this gonna improve the property? Or increase or improve the flow of traffic on the property? Or is it just gonna make the flow of traffic that much worse by doing this?
I don't think that the flow of traffic is going to be any worse. We're making it better by, A, increasing the capacity of the fueling by 50% to try to reduce the queue. And yes, there'll be additional vehicles coming to the site, but again, I think that the people that want to come into the site are coming in, whether there's a fueling position for them is a different story. So I don't know that the volume is going to change so significantly. People are going to come in, four are going to get fueled, others are going to get frustrated and leave. In the future scenario, 50% more of the people that come in will be able to fuel instead of just leaving in frustration.
My view is just consistent with what you were saying. We've had this same plan now for 3 or 4 months, and we've discussed it, we've asked for more information. I think the site's just too small, and it's too close to the intersection. I'm not looking for a response. I'm just telling you, as a board member, I'm not inclined to support this.
I got a question for you. When you make a move like this, because I think you've been doing this for gas stations for a long time, right?
Yes.
When you make a move like this, does it typically lead to an increase in site traffic or not?
I'm going to say in this situation,
Just in general, not in this situation. Do you typically see an increase in site traffic when you make a change like this might
I would say that this site was under-designed. When they first put in 4 fueling positions, it was under-designed based on the volume of traffic going through here. So I think it's rising to the demand by putting in these 2 more fueling positions.
Respectfully, just a yes or no. When you make an increase in costs on any station, do you typically see an increase in site traffic?
I would have to go study them. I didn't study them to see if that would be in every situation. And again, every site is different, every location is different. I can't make a
I can respect that. I mean, I would think that the point of adding a gas pump is also to increase your site traffic.
more traffic, make more money.
Something like if you were to make the convenience store bigger, let's say, just for example. People, when they drive down, they see convenience store. They don't know if it's 1,000 square foot convenience store or 3,000 square foot convenience store. They don't know if they've got 14 different kinds of chips or only 7 kinds of chips. They see a convenience store, they want to go in, they want to get their stuff. So again, that's why I think it's more based on the volume going through on 9 than it is based on what we've got.
So when you're saying that this is it was underdeveloped or undersized?
I would say yes. In my professional opinion, they should have had 6 fueling positions.
Because they can accommodate more
Demand, which is already on the road, correct. I mean, it's 80% plus pass-by traffic.
So traffic consultant to traffic consulting company here, when they say, well, the additional fueling positions will likely reduce wait times on site, the proposal will also likely see an increase in site traffic as shown in the site traffic estimates, which may result in queuing conditions similar to existing conditions. From your experience, because I know you said you disagree with some of the things, that statement there, do you disagree with it? Do you agree with it?
I think that this is a better design because we've got the ability, and whether it's somebody wanting to sit here and block everything until the guy behind them lays on the horn to move them along, even if they wanted to say, okay, I'm gonna pick one of these 2. I'm gonna jockey myself so I can go left or I can go right. Same with this one. So even if we only had 3 queued vehicles, it's still more. 6 plus 3 is 9. We don't have anywhere near the ability to fuel and store 9 cars.
Yeah, but we also just brought up the fact that a 6th car can screw up the queuing.
The 7th car, yeah, 7th car if he wants to be like that and park there, yeah, but that's happening today. But today it's happening with only 4 fueling positions. By adding the 2 more fueling positions, it's giving the ability for someone to get fuel as opposed to waiting in the driveway.
I'm trying just to see his thoughts on these because I wasn't sure if you got to all of the points you wanted to hit.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I followed the report 1 through 4. Yeah, those points.
All right. Anybody else have any questions for this?
I do not.
For this, okay. All right. I mean, what's the board's opinion with this? I mean, do we want to continue going down this path?
I don't think that this
I mean,
functions.
No, I don't think it's going to work.
No?
I don't think it'll work.
I don't think it's going to work.
I think it's
Okay.
gonna be
Yeah,
dangerous.
I just think the way it sounds, all the board members, everybody's having an uncomfortable feeling with the traffic flow, the queuing, things like that. Unless you could come back with a better plan, with some better information that can, that's going to be able to, show the board that you're going to be able to make this a viable, a viable situation
Chairman,
on that property.
Respectfully, that's why I asked that question, and they've exhausted all their options.
I understand, yes, but I mean, but they're not to come back unless let's give them one last option. If they want to change things and they want to make things, work, it's up to them. If they go back and they look at it and they realize that the fact that it's not going to work, then it's done at this point. We're not going forward again. I mean, I don't know if everybody else is in agreement with me, or?
I agree.
Yes.
Okay. Tom?
Yeah.
Okay.
Chairman, just, before we close the issue, I don't believe that you could take a vote on the application until we've had the public hearing. So if you want to leave it open for the applicant to come back with a revised plan, and put that in their court, should they come back we should schedule a public hearing for that occasion.
We could do that. If we're going to go public hearing on the current plan.
Well, it doesn't
Or
sound
would it
like,
be- right.
I wouldn't recommend that because
Yeah.
the board is not comfortable moving forward with the current plan, and so.
So
Well, but we're not.
it's the option still, it's in their court.
If they would like to move forward.
If they would like to move forward
will
with
need
it
to
and
be
then schedule a
substantially
public
different.
hearing, then review the plan, come back with your
Yes.
best possible option to make it work on the site, addressing all the issues. And then we'll
Understanding the nature
entertain,
of the board's
right, and we'll entertain the
reservations.
public hearing, and then we can, and we could close out the process.
Yes.
Whichever direction that may be. But at this point, I don't think that there's, with what we have now and still having a couple of open-ended questions regarding the circulation on the site, I believe that it sounds like the majority of the board still wants to see something different.
Significant.
And I think we're basically kind of stalled at this point. We're at a stalemate. They say this is all they can do. Everybody else is looking at it with different eyes at it on other different issues. We'll put the ball back in your court. Take a look at it and let us know.
I'll let you know right now. Like I said, this is what we're going to present.
This is all you have.
This is all we're going to do. So what I request is that we set a public hearing and take your vote.
I agree. I think that's the best option at this point.
Okay, so let's just we'll schedule a public hearing.
Thank you.
And then again, it's just, I think in the interim, I still think you need to look at some things, but, you still need to address the rest of the board to make sure. I mean, a public hearing, all it's going to be is the public coming in, to discuss, the site plan. And again, you're getting people that they're not traffic engineers. They're residents from the area, people that, that live around this. They're going to come in and say, they can actually harm you because they might be all those people that are angry because, they go there and they have to fight the flow of traffic now to get to the gas pump.
Okay.
Okay. So we'll go that route then. So what would be, I asked the secretary, what would be next available in order for them to advertise and...
November 3rd? Yeah.
Okay, so November 3rd would be, so then we'll schedule somebody makes a motion to schedule a public hearing for November 3rd.
I'll second that.
Motion's made and seconded, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay. Well. All right. And we're done with that for this evening. Now we have 3 miscellaneous items to discuss this evening. I'm not sure,
Would you like me to go
Kyle, as you want to check?
find Kyle real quick, so he's in the hallway?
Yeah, why don't we check where Kyle is, just so we can, I don't know if he was looking into additional information. Okay. I believe all right. Okay. So we're down to the miscellaneous items this evening. Our first item of discussion we have is Hughesonville Fire District, who submitted a letter regarding their intentions to be lead agency on a firehouse replacement project. I don't know, I know we had some discussion earlier during a workshop. I don't know, there's no additional information we have at this point?
Not that I'm aware of.
Regarding this seeker process, okay. All right, so with that, I know we did discuss this earlier. So what's the board's intention? They're looking to be lead agency. They've circulated their intentions. we have to give them an answer within the 30-day period, which is coming to an end soon. So it's either we consent to them being lead agency, or, we object to it. So I'll entertain a motion off the floor. What does everybody feel? I personally don't think that they're equipped for this, or they've provided enough information to show that they're addressing any of the environmental issues that gets picked up in the seeker form.
I agree with that, I'm a no on it.
Okay. All right. Any other discussion we need to have regarding this?
Yeah, no, right?
Okay. All right. So somebody want to make a motion that we respond back that we're objecting to them being lead agency? Who wants to make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
I will second that.
Okay, second. Okay. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. All right. So on to Hudson Valley Volkswagen. I know we received the memo from the ZBA. They were asking for, I guess, input from the planning board to whether or not this is the variance that they're applying for is the smallest possible. And I know at this point we haven't had the chance to really discuss with the applicant, so I know that earlier we had discussed with the planner and the engineer that maybe they need to show us a compliant plan versus what they're looking for currently. Agreed. And it puts it back into the applicant's lap. So in response to the ZBA's request for information, I think that we need to get more information from the applicant, and like to have the secretary provide a letter to the applicant requesting the additional information showing us what a compliant plan would be versus what they currently are proposing on the site.
May I suggest that be conveyed to the ZBA as well?
Yes, correct.
In response to their letter.
Obviously, they need to be copied on it because it's in response to their question to us.
I just want to comment. I think that the question from the ZBA was an excellent one, and that we should do what you've just said in order to answer it, because we can't, at this point in time, we cannot answer it without more information from the applicant.
Correct. Yeah. And again, I think that I don't believe that we made a referral to the ZBA as well. So it was just kind of, they did what they decided to do. Trying to take their chances with them to see if they were going to grant it based upon, the current information in front of them. So if we can get that together, send that out to everybody, and then we'll go from there.
Do you want to vote on that?
With the what?
Do we want to vote on that now?
Oh, yeah, we need to vote on it.
Sure. I'll make a motion that we send a letter, as the chairman has just described, to the applicant, and to also advise the zoning board that we'll be reviewing this in more detail and get back to them at a later date.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. All right, so our last item is comprehensive plan and zoning changes. We did receive a couple of memos. We did get some memos from the planner as well as the attorney, so I don't know if everybody wants to have a discussion regarding any changes at this
Got to
point.
kind of go through this.
Yeah, we could kind of, I mean.
It's unfortunate we're starting this so late.
Yeah, but we got to have time to.
I think it's more educational purpose for us at this point, because I mean, what's done is done.
It's
I
all
think that we're,
adopted,
now it's how do we go forward with future projects? What items are we looking that are different from what was in the past
Yes.
versus what's going to be in the future?
How does this affect your reviews of site plans and
Correct.
subdivisions?
So,
But I think it's also, at least touch on for a couple minutes.
Sure.
The comp plan and what was behind the comp plan, because I know the amendments have been adopted, but there are questions that I think at some future point, when they take up the rest of the comp plan, they need to begin to address some of the questions. So I don't know, Malcolm, if you want to just briefly or walk through it's a long document. I would suggest you go through the whole thing.
Sure.
But the highlights.
So the document starts by laying the groundwork, describing some of the changes in housing and infrastructure availability in the town since the last plan, which was in 2010. It also acknowledges that a full comprehensive, this is not meant to replace a full new comprehensive plan, that is still recommended, and that the town should undergo that process in the next few years. In the meantime, there was some concern that a number of things had changed in those categories, primarily infrastructure and housing. And so there was concern that the zoning code left a certain degree of ambiguity and confusion as to a number of different avenues by which a developer could pursue sort of the general category of clustered housing, and that led to ambiguity and confusion among the people of Wappinger, not knowing how their neighborhoods might change, right? What can happen? What's going to happen to the vacant lots across the street from my house? What could happen? Because there were, to the best of my understanding, a number of different avenues through a number of different types of clustered subdivisions that all had different requirements, different application procedures, different density calculations. I imagine that they were all adopted by different administrations in different decades with different contexts. And so the result was, I want to say, at least 5 or 6 different avenues by which you could pursue some form of cluster with mixed uses or densities.
I agree. And all of you have been dealing with this more than me, but one of the bases, and it's good trying to clean this up and make some changes. It's been adopted. I'm not saying, I'm not supportive of it. I wish that there had been more of an effort made to not necessarily eliminate some of the cluster type developments, but putting more restrictions on how they could be used and creating a set of findings so that it happens, so that you can come to a conclusion without saying it's going to be the whole town that's subject to this. So maybe it's some locational restrictions or other findings that are different, but we're beyond that. I do want to make one point, and maybe some of you have an answer to it. Throughout the comp plan amendments, it talks about how the multifamily / apartments now represent 40% of the housing stock in the town of Wappinger. And they kind of use that interchangeably with rental apartments. And, we know that they're condominium developments, they're owner-occupied, that are part of that 40% that they're referring to. And I think that in the future, and I know the supervisor's interested in taking a more comprehensive plan, look at the plan to amend it, that there'd be a little more digging down onto what the housing stock actually is and what the household sizes are. Maybe there should be a market analysis for people, because there's statements in here where they eliminate the mention of affordable housing, say, well, all our affordable housing goals have been met, because we have 40% of the housing stock is multifamily or apartments. And maybe that's true. I don't know that that's true, but I think it would be important to understand what's happening with the housing market. I know all of us know people who have children or family or friends that can't afford to live in this town. And I'm not saying the solution is open up the town to more development, but I think it's a serious issue that I hope in the future we can grapple with.
I think one of the things that was discussed in the past was the availability of quality land in the town of Wappinger to build is depleted to almost nothing. And what's happening now is the little that's left is being gerrymandered or manipulated to pack in as much as they can, because that's basically the best use for that land left. And rather than try to just pack in housing units to adhere to what they want to happen all over the state, actually thinking what's the best use for the little land we have left in the town of Wappinger. We have, from what I can remember, a decent mix, or a good mix of affordable housing to regular houses that's comparable to other towns, if not better, in the county, correct?
I think we're getting out of the plan.
So why would we take the little land we have left and allow it to be manipulated to pack in housing?
Well, I'm not suggesting that, I'm just saying there's some issues that I see that I think I'm hopeful in the future that this plan review can begin to address.
I think what this did was address it from the perspective it needed to be addressed, was to prevent being able to just, pack in whatever we can on the little land we have left.
The unfortunate part is that they're never going to be able to start giving affordable housing of what we once remembered this area, and giving land to the developers to be able to put more units in is not going to bring the cost of it down. It's just what the market is holding.
What the market bears.
Yeah, it's what the market bears. I would love to see them go back to, the prices that were 10 years ago.
I'm not suggesting, even the 40% in this report, they kind of use it interchangeably with affordable housing, multifamily housing, apartments, and we know it's a mix of owner-occupied and other things. And I just wonder if there's a way to, not as, as we discuss this in the future, that we...
More of a town board issue.
Right, it's...
I mean, I think the planning board has a role to play.
He's right, which, we do deal with it. As they interpret this document to try to make projects happen in the town, it sits in front of us, and then we have to figure out how to work within the confines of partially what this document says, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's basically, this is the guidelines to how they can build in the future. I mean, the comprehensive plan's more or less a recommendation, but then the zoning changes are, the actual rules that are in place that we have to abide by.
The unfortunate part is that we don't have the control of what the finished products goes to market.
That's done through that's all done through the legislative process, which is the town board, which is out of our purview. But could we put input? Could we give input on it? Yeah, of course we could if we want. If we were asked to. I mean, any time in the past where we have, we've given that input in the past. In terms of some of the stuff that you bring up, Richard, I know with the you talk about condominiums and rental housing. That they're kind of just lumping it all together.
It's a big difference.
There is a lot of there are a lot of condominium complexes that have a large number of rental units within them. Mm-hmm. So, like Whitegate, I don't know how many people actually.
Rentals,
I was going to say that one there is a tough one, because I think that the majority of the people that own units there basically just rent them out. Pavilion's similar. It's a similar thing, but I know there are some people that there do actually own the apartment they live in. Montclair Apartments. And all those are based upon the homeowners association, their rules of what they allow and don't allow.
I would also add that, I don't know why it is only boiled down to the 40 and the 60, or how that is defined necessarily, but I would add that one of the considerations of the comprehensive plan was that there is limited, or that we are running into capacity issues when it comes to the water and the sewer districts, and that by the nature of multifamily housing, both in terms of practical sense and the density of the housing, but also I believe in our code and in the Dutchess County Health Code, any new developments under those schemes that would have multifamily housing at those levels would require water and sewer. And we saw that as sort of the major issue with the most recent applications that came in. And so the comprehensive plan update makes the case that if we have this limit to capacity, expansions, what is left of that capacity or any expansions to that capacity should go to existing residents. That we should look to safeguard those residents in terms of their access to these resources, as opposed to using what capacity we have left or looking at expansions and capacity for new developments. That could explain why it is as simple as sort of like the binary of 40/60 in terms of, multifamily versus single home, rental versus owner, right? Like those, it kind of goes back and forth, and the definition of those categories is not necessarily clear to me, but I think that might be, that is certainly an argument that is made in the comprehensive plan update and may lend itself to,
Because that percentage was used throughout the comprehensive plan update. And I think I think just going forward, I'm hopeful that the town will take a closer look at that, some of these issues. I talked to the supervisor about it, and he's very looking forward to being able to do a more comprehensive review of the comprehensive plan. And that would be a good thing for the town, and a good thing for the planning board.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, this update modifies the language, either removes or modifies the language of specific goals identified in the comprehensive plan. This is not an update to the comprehensive plan, or not a new comprehensive plan, right?
It's just a modification to the existing.
Clarifying, updating and clarifying specific recommendations and goals identified in the 2010 plan.
We look at like Middlebush Road, right? So there was that two-house subdivision. The Middlebush Road, remember what's it, the old restaurant? They wanted to add another house on there. It was like 2 lots, right? They wanted to add another one, and they had a problem with getting the sewer, right?
Correct.
Because
they couldn't
that's
because
one.
of
That's one. So my road, I can't remember, but that in the last 10 years maybe had sewer added or water added. Most of us are not hooked up on that. I'm not hooked up on it. And so how many houses in Wappinger have the ability to hook up to sewer that haven't done so yet? And how does that affect the capacity? Now we look at all these developments coming in, right? So now the wording allows them to kind of bypass some of these things to get it done, but now they're putting sewer and water on their property when you have, and this is, we can all agree that a lot of these developments are confined to a smaller area. This is going to be a Hopewell, right? And a lot of these big developments we've had in front of us. Right. And so all those residents around there are having problems with even getting water, and now we're forcing them into, for them to do their projects, they have to add water and sewer on site. It creates it's a bigger problem. So I think we certainly have to start rewording and looking at the way we allow these developments to come in, so we do it properly, so we don't come into a bigger problem 10 years from now when people like me want to all of a sudden hook up, and I can't.
Well, I can't remember the last time that we had a subdivision public hearing, even a 5-lot subdivision public hearing, where we did not have local residents airing grievances with well issues. It is a very, for the last, I don't know, Bruce, how long I've been here, the last 6-7 years, and I'm sure earlier than that, right?
Just about every subdivision application that's come through.
Some parts of town more so than others, but.
Not the small 1, 2, or 3 lot ones, but, the ones larger than that, they're coming in.
We had a 5-lot subdivision where people were coming in.
Right.
Talking about the issue, I've redug my well 3 times in the last 10 years.
They've had to either frack their well, or they've had to put in a new well that went that many, 100 feet, 200 feet deeper, just to get the required flow of water.
And so the question then becomes, thinking of a recent application that came in where they were looking at creating their own water district with a well field in the middle of a neighborhood that has issues with wells. I mean, I don't know how we even begin to look at the
Well, the
potential
problem with
impacts.
that is, when people have a problem, they don't report it to Department of Health.
Yeah.
Department of Health doesn't look for this information. If you don't report it, Department of Health assumes there's no problem, when there is a problem.
And, look, I'm in that, I live in that neighborhood that's surrounded by Old Hopewell and Cedar Hill. And, as I understand it, they will be allowed to proceed under the previous regulations. They're not affected by these changes. I know there's also...
I'm curious for Kyle to chime in on that. I wasn't sure whether or not, I know that we had a conversation about that. Because we're still talking about the comp plan. Soon, at some point, we will talk about the zoning changes. And I'm curious about open applications and whether or not they would be subject to changes in the zoning.
Typically, they're not. They're subject to the new zoning changes. And that would also be true for the Acadia, I think it's Cedar Hills and Conservation Corners.
Yeah.
Somehow I thought they were grandfathered.
They were exempt under the moratorium.
They were exempt under the moratorium, and then the other thing that, as I recall, I think he did with the Cedar Hills, they withdrew their previous application under the 240-50, and then they reapplied under 240-19. And I think, maybe, without speaking too far out of school, maybe there would have been a colorable argument had they not done that, but under the circumstances, I think now it's fairly clear that they're both going to be bound to the new zoning changes.
Yeah, but there are, these zoning changes that will affect our business here.
Oh, yeah, no, it definitely will.
And they will affect those applications.
Yeah, it's going to affect, But again, in some cases, I think a lot of this too is, again, as everybody's brought up, infrastructure is the bigger problem.
Yeah.
There's just no infrastructure to go around. It goes back to the old reason why, a lot of these properties were all zoned for 1 acre, 1 acre single-family homes, because
they needed to fit a well and a
the minimum of
septic.
an acre in order to put a well and septic on it,
Yeah.
and try to make it work, keeping the distances, that they need to keep the septic and the well separated, through multiple lots on the property. So I think that's probably another big driving factor. I mean, the sewer issue, I don't think is ever going to go away, because it's, unless they have to make a huge expenditure to either
To expand the plant,
increase the sewer treatment plant, or even
Or
at that,
significantly
they have
address
to
I&I,
go through
right.
100% and correct all the I&I issues.
Yeah.
Because, it's the storm flows. Every time you have a large storm, if the plant gets overrun with water, it's not treating what's going, and, you're just, discharging raw sewage into the river, which, then you're in trouble with the DEC.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're trying to, protect everybody in all different directions here with this. Yeah. So, but I agree. I think that, the comp plan, I think they should take a look at it, because again, this is, it's older. I mean, I forgot this was this 2010?
Yeah.
2010.
Yeah, 2010 was the original draft of it. And, 15 years later, we're making, some minor changes to it. And again, before you know it, another 5 years go by, and a lot of things could change in the area, which, might, a lot of people might have different ideas for different things to, see certain parts of the town go in different directions.
So, back to the comp plan, starting on page 10, it's a 17-page document. Starting on page 10, that is where they start making specific modifications to issues, goals, et cetera. All of these largely support the collection of zoning changes and everything that we've just discussed. I leave it up to the board. We can go through these one by one, or we can move on to the changes to the zoning code, and it's up to you and your schedules. But there are about 6 or 7 pages of specific issues, opportunities, goals, visions, where the language has either been removed or modified.
I think we carve out a little time at each of our meetings to come to go through that the proper way, rather than trying to rush through it tonight. Or, why don't we just put 15 minutes at the end of the next couple
Or we could all read it at home and come back with our questions.
I was just going to say, why don't we just highlight the ones we want to get clarification, discuss, and put it all together, and then we can kind of...
That could work. That would be probably the best.
I think if not tonight, certainly the zoning changes are really critical, given that will affect all the applications that come before us, so.
We could talk about that later.
Yeah, the zoning changes will be more brief, and if you all want to take a look at those pages of the comp plan, we can discuss them at the next meeting.
So we'll look at the zoning stuff, carve out a few minutes at the end of the next meeting and go over it.
Yeah.
So, Kyle, I'm gonna go through my memo. If you keep me honest, if I miss anything, or if you want to spend more time discussing anything, you let me know.
Floor is yours.
So there are a number of definition changes in the zoning code. The first one is two-family dwellings and multifamily dwellings. Both of those definitions now specify that they include collections of attached units. So if you want to put up a building of attached or semi-attached units, 5 townhomes in a row that are attached or semi-attached, the definition now clarifies that that is included in the definition of multifamily homes.
And there's greater restrictions on where those multifamily homes can go.
And what they require as far as, utility, right? Whether or not they need to be in the water district and the sewer district. Net lot area definition now includes 100% of the regulated wetland buffer. Formerly, that was just the wetland. It didn't include any of the buffer. So the net lot area calculation now includes all of the buffer for those wetlands. Net lot area is, in our code, only used to calculate density for multifamily zoning districts, or density in mixed-use special permit applications. Conventional yield has been added. I won't go into too much detail on it as it's quite technical, but it is a method by which the conservation subdivision special permit calculates density, the permitted density. This was, I think, probably in response to the most recent applications that we had, where we went through a pretty long and drawn-out process to reach a lot count that applicants could move forward in conservation subdivisions. That will now that will now follow the conventional yield calculation, and a definition is provided. Open space definition has been added and is used in 24019C, the mandatory open space special permit. It gives a slightly more specific definition of what constitutes open space in that process.
Malcolm, where's that 24019C allowed? Where does it apply? Generally?
What zoning districts? I believe that is permitted in all residential zoning districts. I could be wrong. It might not be permitted in some of the smaller ones or some of the bigger ones, but certainly like R40, mandatory open space subdivision is one of the clustered avenues that were available that we were discussing earlier in the conversation. One of the ways in which you can look to modify dimensional requirements in a standard subdivision. Essentially, you're saying each lot is a little bit smaller, but there's a park in the middle, right? Back where I was. So that leads us to zoning sections that have been amended. The conservation subdivision and mandatory open space subdivision, both of those have been amended. Conservation subdivision now requires a positive recommendation from the planning board prior to town board authorization. So anybody seeking that special permit would have to come here, pitch it to you, and essentially get a referral from you to the town board that you think that this is appropriate and something that can work before they go to the town board to look for approval. The maximum dwelling unit count for conservation subdivisions is now based on conventional yield. That's what we talked about earlier. So the unit count calculation has been modified for this new process. Also, all dwelling units in conservation subdivisions shall be detached. So we're no longer looking at multifamily, attached, semi-attached, right? An applicant could come in and look for alleviation from the dimensional restrictions and look to get slightly smaller lots to prevent additional ecological damages elsewhere on the site. But it would still be a single-family detached neighborhood.
In terms of kind of the process where the planning board makes a recommendation to the town board then kicks it back to the planning board, right? They vote on it?
For final, for subdivision and site plan, if I'm remembering correctly, 24019C, you get your special permit from the town board, and then they come here for subdivision approval.
Got it.
And that's where everything gets finalized. Now they would have to start here and get a positive recommendation.
So they're going to start here.
Yeah.
And then go to the...
Get a positive recommendation.
Should be.
Right.
Yeah, as opposed to last, I think the previous process had them start there, then they came here for lot count, then they went back for special permit, and if they had received special permit approval, then they would come back here for subdivision.
For subdivision.
So now they start here, they go there, and then they come back, and it's just those 3 steps.
So it's just going to start here, coming up with what they can do conventionally, what they're proposing to do, and then once they have almost a complete layout, they'll go to the town board for a yay or nay using that section of the code.
Yeah.
Okay.
They can't bypass us anymore.
Yeah, they can't start at the town board.
Right.
The 24019C mandatory open space subdivision has been amended. It now includes the new definition of open space, which we just discussed. And it now includes the definition of conventional yield, which we just discussed. There are a number of zoning sections that have been removed. 24019A, average density subdivision. I don't believe we've seen one of these since one of the Ober Creek subdivisions, so it's been a number of years.
Yeah.
Essentially, it was an idea that if I want to subdivide 6 lots, some of them can be smaller as long as the average size of all the lots still meets the zoning requirement. So I'd have to make up for any smaller lots with bigger lots, and the average lot size would still be what was required in R20, R40, wherever I am, right? That's been removed. 24039, planned unit development district, has been removed. I've never seen an application under that number. I believe that it is similar to 24050, designed residential development, which we saw in Acadia.
Yeah.
That has also been removed. Both of those were sort of large-scale special permits by which you could come in and create a little village within a village. There could be commercial, cultural, places of assembly, right? They could be those components, and then also increased density standards subject to many, many, many conditions. They were very long sections of the code. Both of those have been removed. Also, 24059, conversion of certain existing large residential structures to a 2-family or multifamily dwelling. The last time we saw that was, I believe it was formerly a nursing home that had been turned into an apartment building.
Oh, yeah.
That section of the code allowed, I believe it was originally drafted to preserve larger historic structures as an avenue by which developers could preserve larger historic structures.
Larger homes that predated also. They had
to be older. They'd be built before like 1965 or something like that. And if you did that, you could turn it into a multi-family situation, turn it into a number of apartments, provided that the footprint of the building didn't change beyond a certain amount, and there were restrictions on the number of units, et cetera, right? Yep. That special permit has been removed from the code. There are 2 other zoning revisions that I noticed. I believe they are added for the purposes of clarity. I don't think that they change about the meaning of the code. I think that the code would have been interpreted this way, but this makes it abundantly clear. A change to 240-19C, mandatory open space. The use table now says that in no case shall the use of any lot or building be in conflict with what is permitted in the use table. And 240-18B2, subdivision of a lot has been revised to state that additional lots created from a subdivision of a legally non-conforming two-family or multifamily dwelling on a lot in a one-family residential district must conform to the dimensional regulations of the zoning district. Essentially, if I have a multifamily building or two-family building on a large lot, it's an existing non-conforming. If I want to subdivide off a piece of that lot into a new zoning compliant lot, I can do that as long as that lot, that newly created lot, is conforming to the code, which I believe is how any subdivision would move forward anyway, right? Any new lot does need to meet those standards, but now that is stated explicitly. That is the end of my list for zoning changes. Did I miss anything, Kyle?
You did not.
Okay.
Very good job, very comprehensive.
Thank you.
Thanks, Malcolm.
Now, as you digest all of this and as we read the comprehensive plan in advance of the next meeting, feel free, anyone, to email me, call me if you have questions and you want to discuss it further.
Now, do you know if the moratorium is now expired? Remember somewhere around
I don't know.
I heard something that they, I'm not sure if I heard it correctly, but I heard something that they might have extended it,
Yeah, they did.
right? Did they?
It's
Okay.
extended till March,
Until March.
another 6 months,
Okay. So,
What was the basis for that?
to complete the changes to the comprehensive plan.
Oh, so it would have expired prior to this adoption?
It
and so
would have
they
expired
extended
a couple
it
weeks ago, 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
But these are now in place, so
This is, but there's still more to do. And they can't do that if people start submitting stuff and it throws a monkey wrench and everything.
So are they working on another collection of zoning changes?
I'm not the supervisor, I can't answer that.
seem to be in the know.
There wouldn't be much reason to change the comp plan further if there wasn't other zoning changes they had in mind, so typically that's...
Well, they have to have a good reason to extend the moratorium.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so maybe in the future we'll see some of the updated, things that they're proposing. Maybe we could weigh in on those, I guess, going forward. All right. But I think most of these, I think at one point we did weigh in on these go way back to, some of the changes were in play back then. It just never came around back to us for any additional comments.
I don't know if we've ever written a letter, but I know that Barbara and I have been talking about how many, there's too many different ways to do a cluster subdivision.
I know.
And
too many loopholes to get
too many well, there's, there's like 6 different ways to do it.
Too many versions of it.
Too many different versions.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, and you needed to just come up with a more simplified process to...
Have maybe 2 with a much more clear intention and have it be well-defined and,
But at the end of the day, regardless, it's still, to get into those scenarios, you're kind of bound to the, again, it's infrastructure. It's holding it back for the most part on most of them.
Yes.
And again, it's most of the properties that want to do it are the properties that have been, put to the side for many years because they weren't the best for development.
Steep slopes, wetlands, rock outcropping.
Exactly. So in order to put some type of a septic system on there, you're going to have to import a lot of material.
Yeah.
Putting additional wells in, again, it's...
You're going to have to build an incredibly expensive road and do an enormous amount of cut and fill to make the site
to navigate the properties.
Yeah.
No, I agree. There's a lot of different things to it. And again, as the cost of construction goes up, I don't think they're even going to get. They're still not going to be, worth it at the end of the day, too. Yeah, unless they come up with some,
Unless they find a market
something
for
creative.
really expensive homes, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So do we have anybody else have any comments on this, or if not, looks like we're down to the end of the meeting for the evening. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Okay, motion's made, seconded. All in favor? Aye. Okay.